yourself by becoming rich.
Take all your money and buy Bitcoin.
You can wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. GM. So, today is Tuesday, and Bitcoin is probably going all the way back. This is a pretty classic distribution sign, or just a failed breakout. So if I clear all this off and take off the indicator, leave on the impulse detector, because impulse candles that get filled in have a high rate of failure. So you can see this here. An impulse down candle, when it starts to fill, it ends up filling it fully. An impulse candle, when it starts to fill, it ends up filling fully. And of course that was a trend shift. An impulse candle here, it started to fill, which is why 63.4 is the level I've been watching. And if you were following along yesterday, I was swing long from before the weekend, and I closed that swing long over wherever it was, 63.7, wasn't it? Yeah, somewhere like that. I mentioned it in the videos and in trading analysis anyway. If I zoom in, I'll see it. Yeah, I closed it yesterday morning, somewhere around here, just before we had the flush. Then I re-entered it when we came back up, and then I closed it again after this 4-hour close down here. And the reason for that was seeing that 4-hour close, closing inside of the gap. So we had wicked into the gap, and then we had a close down into it. And I know from my systems and testing that when you start to fill a gap, which is denoted by a close, right? So you've got your gap from this wick, you have an impulse candle starts to move higher, price moves higher, sorry, then it retraces back into it. That tells you a couple of things. You've got breaks of structure here, so you have this low that was leading to that spike, moving there. And these are like early breaks of structure. Of course, if you're looking strictly at, the 4-hour chart of BTC, including wicks, the structure level is all the way down here. So you have to use early identifiers. You can see this on the 1-hour chart as well. Quite clear after that sweep there. Then it starts to break structure and break structure and break structure. Many breaks throughout the day. And it's just as simple as being a failed breakout. So this whole move to me is a failed breakout. We are now back below the wick that we originally broke from. And price seems to be, it has tried to hold, it has rallied off that, it has failed a couple of times. I think there can be a move. I don't think it's necessarily just going to go straight to zero, but it probably, if I'm correct, it probably doesn't bounce much here. So obviously I exited that swing trade and haven't re-entered. And that's fine. I mean, my swing trade was based on momentum, and we got the really nice momentum on the breakout, and then nothing followed it up. So the problem that you have here is the market is basically broken out. And if I get let me pull up 3 charts here. So you've had the move from the breakout, then you've had other coins following, right? I mean, Akash is one, just as an example. Or if I go to a 1-hour chart here, and we look since Friday, right? This has been AKT since Friday, while Bitcoin has moved up. And what other coins? I mean, I can just look at total 3, I guess, as a whole. You see total 3. And you'll see how total 3 was rising up and rallied into weekend as well. So, all coins moved all the way up into the weekend. They weakened off first, showing signs of reversal and distribution. Some alts continued to rally, and BTC had this consolidation at the highs, failed to break out, and is pulling back. Why does that matter? Because I'm trying to decide and understand whether the market has basically gone long too soon. And from what I've seen over the weekend with several alts, and what I've seen with Bitcoin itself, and then the reaction to this, it does seem like the really nice move, which was genuine, Powell's speech, the pivot, all that stuff, high time frame, the triggers for being bullish are still there. But once we had this breakout, it seems like the whole market just said, fuck this, let's go, boom, we get long. And this is a really good, I think if you remember this period and note it in your journals, you'll do really well, because I think that it's going to be really hard for the market to have any sustained rallies in the rest of this bull market without a massive wave of new money, because as soon as we break out, everyone just gets long. And we can have big waves of new money, but they aren't here yet, right? There's no money printing happening. The Fed interest rate pivot, great. You know, Bitcoin ETFs, we're still getting inflows. That's good. If you see this sustained for several weeks, that will be one good sign of actual new money coming into Bitcoin. Outside of that, you'll probably, again, if Trump wins, you'll have a big wave of new buyers, because there'll be people who are betting on a 4-year presidency of Trump, which is good for crypto, right? That crypto will definitely become attractive from that sense. So there are sources of new money, but they're not here. And that, you know, that tells me that what we're currently seeing is people trying to position for that. And so it still is like PvP. So it's still all of us just trying to, you know, beat each other to the punch to get long in whatever setup it is. And that's going to lead to a lower expectancy, because essentially you get overbought very quickly. People get too long, it flushes them out. And so I don't know, my expectation would be if Bitcoin doesn't reclaim 63.4 and we're at that 62.8 level, I would say we probably make our way down to 61, back to where we started from on Friday. Maybe take out some of those stops back into that level there. And if you see then, at that point, that it's showing resistance to going down, that's where it can rally again from. It just forms a kind of protracted higher low. Now, you will look at this and say a failed breakout like that is definitely something to be concerned of. If it fails this breakout, you know, I would be looking at moves all the way down as possible. So there are some higher time frame paths. I just think that there's not a huge amount of bearish overhang left in the market. I think mostly two reasons why this rally is failing, at least so far. I mean, it hasn't fully failed, by the way. You know, this could chop around here and it could hold, and that could all end up just being a higher low, a retest, right? That could happen. If the trigger for that would be it tries to go lower and you see some kind of strong reclaim. We don't have that yet. It's still sort of, you know, just weakening and weakening and weakening, but you never know. But the reasons, like in terms of what matters, the reasons why there's persistent weakness here is, first of all, everyone's trying to get long. And secondly, it's just too soon for any sustained breakout or rallies. And also the overhang, like people are still more pessimistic leaning because of the last 5 months, which have, you know, the last 5 months, what's been the game? Either take profit or round trip, right? If you bought these lows, if you didn't take profit, boom, you're stopped out. If you bought these lows and you didn't take profit, boom, you're stopped out. If you bought these lows and you didn't take profit, you're stopped out. So now people buying here and here and here and here, they start to see it looking like reversing and just, I'm not making that mistake again, I need to sell, sell, sell. And so if the market can find a floor and hold up, you can see it push higher. So then paths I'm looking at. There's a couple main ones. You know, first of all would be like right here, where it just holds at this level and then we continue, which would be totally fine, right? Retest of that level, breakout. We can go back to the origin of the impulse and have some chop around here, which is more like a trap, meaning you're looking at this level. Everyone's eyes are on this level as your kind of support resistance. So we could hold it first time and move up into a consolidation above and then push higher. We could lose it, retest it bearishly, and then form something like a double bottom or a retest. That would serve to trap shorts, right? You'd fail down here, you'd rally, but it would fail that retest. this here, when everyone's expecting it to go lower, would actually be a decent place to reload, especially if it stays within this Thursday's kind of order block area. Then beyond that, I don't know. I was the first one, but I've been very much of the opinion and very much saying, like, as much as I'm a Bitcoin bull, this is still a downtrending market, and if this turns out to be a lower high, that's a major sign of weakness. Because if you're looking at where the highs have bounced to, I mentioned this on Weekly Outlook, I think, with the trend line, right? If it's bouncing up, it's bouncing up, it's bouncing up, it's bouncing up. If the next bounce only gets to there, that's a major show of weakness. But for that to actually complete, it needs to make a new low below 58. So if it makes a new low below 58, that should be a bearish move that leads to new lows. But then, counterintuitively, I also think that if it does this, that's when it moons. So you'd want to watch this 58k pivot if it went there, right? Where we come back down, we lose that level, and we retest it, and same thing. I'd be watching, because you do have, some untested areas here. And maybe it's just a deep flush. Maybe it's just go down to take out everyone who thinks there's no way. Because when you think about where the market goes, it quite often goes to an area where you're sure it's valid for a breakout to either side. I mean, that's what this move here is. If this fails, it's because it pushed above, it was strong, it did close, there was impulse, so it attracted a lot of new positions, and then it failed. Those are the best places to go against the trend. But it doesn't mean you should all the time. Because, of course, the reason why people get long here is when there is a valid breakout, you want to be long. You don't want to overcomplicate it. It doesn't mean that every breakout is valid. You can have false breakouts first. So I did the same thing here at the downside. If it came back down into this area, which could just be a protracted sort of under-over, depends on how sentiment is, it depends on how positioning is, if it gets there. So I'm looking at all these as, the reason why I'm looking at all these as bullish paths is I think Bitcoin will be bought. Unless there's some major change that, people think the Fed are not going to cut rates, but they are. People think that Trump has no chance of winning, but he does. There's plenty of, when you're looking ahead, there's so many reasons to be a dip buyer of Bitcoin. I find it hard to really think, why would Bitcoin go to like 44k or 48k or 36k like on this phase? I think if that was going to happen, you could even see it in this path, right? You see it goes down there, people think it's going to break down right away, it pushes up into the election, and then, it goes all the way down. I'm not saying that this can't be the end of the ball or whatever, this could be all over. I just wouldn't think that if we drop off soon, I wouldn't think that that is the move that leads us lower, you understand? Because you have reasons to buy going into the election, you have reasons to buy going into the rate cutting cycle beginning, liquidity increasing, all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's not going to be as simple as just straight down. But in the short term, it can go down probably more than people think to start to induce or bait some short positioning in. To put it simply, in a word, I think it's going to be, if we do fall back down, it's going to be pretty choppy. I think it's going to be pretty difficult. And so if I was looking at where this could or should go to first, it needs to hold here. Basically has to hold here, or it's probably going to 61. Right? Once you fall back inside that breakout level, that's where people who bought the breakout are wrong. That's where people who were short and didn't close, right? Shorts who got squeezed up but they didn't close. That's where they're right again. And that's where people who bet on longs all the way down have to close. And that's where you could see it fill back in the rest of this impulse candle pretty easily. Just as simple as, if you go to like 1 hour, you see this move up. There's a bunch of untested hourly candles all the way up. We just fill back down into them and then we go again. So a few different paths that are possible. Try not read too much into it. This all happened on Monday as well, which is worth noting, right? As I said, even though this looks like shit, Monday being a red day is not a bad thing, because if you're going to have a green week, you'd rather see the down wick get put in the first half of the week. It's just one of these cases though where all throughout Monday, people try to bet on that. Oh, that's it. There's Monday's low. Let's go. No, there's Monday's low. Here's the weekly low. Let's go. And every time it goes down and it looks like it's going to break down, like you see this here, like it looks like shit right now. It looks like it's going to break down. but it probably rallies again. And it just frustrates and frustrates and frustrates. If that continues, don't forget that the primary trend here is down. Each of these rallies are failing because it's in a downtrend, 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 downtrend. You really want to see it show some signs of reversing that, which is why I look at 63.4 as that 4-hour candle area, right? Looking at kind of that 63.4 area. I think that is the place that needs to reclaim before you start saying we're going back up into this upper range. Otherwise, let it chop around. ETH. Now, ETH is one of the things where I talked yesterday about the fact that ETH could be a false breakout, and it is. I mean, this now is a false breakout. So even though Bitcoin had a nice move up, and Bitcoin is sort of at this level, so Bitcoin is here in relative comparison, it's back and it's retesting its area. ETH failed it. Pushed once, twice, and 3 times into that area and has sold off since it. So, and that's a major resistance. And now ETH's falling back into this range from before. So ETH would definitely be showing more weakness than BTC. But I mean, that's kind of been the case all the way along. What were the higher volume coins? Let me check Velo, because obviously Toncoin had a bunch of volume, but that was based on the news cycle. Let me look at what Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, standard enough. Pepe. So people started to push into altcoins again. As you can see, Pepe. I mean, Pepe is also completed a false breakout here. I wouldn't say that's majorly concerning. It needs to get back above it though. You know, if you're looking at it over here, same thing, right? Moves up, false breakout, falls below, reclaims. And that's, think, what you're looking for. If you see reclaims here, that's a really clear sign that we're going higher, at least up into retesting some of this, right? Whether that goes down from there or not. Reclaims of these previous highs that it's broken out and failed from. That's basically your dividing line between bulls and bears. WIF is another very popular retail coin. WIF looking a lot more like Ethereum, where it's sort of a sideways bearish flag forming. Again, doesn't mean it goes to new lows, but it has a lot of work to do to invalidate that. This could just be a bear trap. Push up, people are like, oh, it's bearish again, and boom, away we go. Up it rises, and then we disbelief rally higher. That's the ideal outcome, but no guarantees, of course. Tron had been moving. Tron was pumping up the other day. And if you look at Tron, it's pushed back up into the 2021 levels. It has taken the highs, right? So it's set its first top. As always happens, people pile into shorts, takes it out. If you're looking at Tron now, if it falls over there, that's probably where Tron now is going to return back to where it came from, and that little rally is done. If Tron can reclaim these levels, it can go higher for towards 2021 highs. So alts, mixed bag. And I think the market's now looking at BTC for its next guide. In terms of this BTC area here, if we go, oh no, didn't want to delete all that. I want to hide it. We're looking back at this previous distribution that we had. I drew a second one yesterday, but this is the first one we had. It's still above 61.2, which is fine. That's probably an area you're looking at for it to hold if it comes back down. It's chopping around at this point of control, which it got above on Friday, is battling to try and hold it now. So in a really simple sense, just like reclaiming 61.2 led us to 62.8, if we fall back inside 62.8, looking at 61.2. Those levels have been pretty consistent on BTC, and that would be another confluence factor for potential move down. If it can reclaim and hold and it consolidates here, you're looking at some of these value areas above at 67. And don't forget as well, like Bitcoin can move up and it can hold and do this and still be distribution. You can still just have another push. I mean, we've seen this a million times where it looks like it's going to sell off. You know, it looks like it's selling off here. It looks like it's bearish, comes back up to the highs. So don't be surprised if it comes back to the highs, even if it's going to go lower. I suspect, though, because of the nature of this move, where everyone just gets long all at once, that we probably flush down first. But you have to play it by ear. You have to just play it as it comes. And that's about it. GM. See you later on the live stream, 4 p.m. UTC. Campus onboarding plus Ask Michael Live. Also, we'll be breaking down and going through the new power rankings, which are absolutely G. Power streak, let me get it correct. Power streak. If you've seen that, Super G. Where are we? Your Super G lightning bolt, showing that you've logged in 14 days in a row. Let's fucking go. All right, GM.